Welcome back to the show. Let's talk housing. I was lucky enough to be younger when renting was affordable, and that meant I got to experience the joy of living with my mates. I used to live with the OCD comic John Richardson. It was brilliant, right? He used to hide Rice Krispies in his slippers, put the forks in the knife drawer, listen to him cry at night. It was so much fun. But a lot of young people don't get to live with their mates now because rents are ridiculous. And buying a house, that's virtually impossible. Barely half of all families in Britain own their own home. Single people in London would have to save for nearly 46 years for a mortgage, and over 1 million people are waiting for a council house. We desperately need money for new homes, and yet somehow, in the middle of a housing crisis earlier this year, we agreed to give the Queen £369 million of our money to do up Buckingham Palace. Why is she getting free money? The Queen isn't in social housing. She's not struggling with her mortgage. She's not living with her parents, having to have really quiet sex so she doesn't wake them up. Just
keep it down, Phil. Keep it down.
But I like to fuck loud. The Queen... I'm gonna hang, but I don't care. The Queen isn't renting. She's not paying through the nose for a shithole like this. Or this. Or this. I mean, look at this place. There's a shower in the kitchen. I doubt Buckingham Palace looks like that. The Queen's not there.
Philip, what do you want for dinner?
And he's just in the shower. Chicken! I feel like chicken tonight. It's insane. Last year, in order to avoid higher rents for tenants, 309 Tory MPs voted against making houses fit for human habitation. To show you just how insane that is, here is the dictionary definition of a house.
House, a building for human habitation.
They voted against a house being a fucking house! You can't change the meaning of words just to suit you. Did you eat my donut? It's not a donut, it's a future poo. You're welcome. Not only are they changing language, look at this. 123 MPs are landlords. Tories, Labour, Lib Dems, SNP, they've all got skin in the game. How can a tenant win? There's a hole in my roof. I'm going to write to my local MP. I am your local MP. This house isn't fit for a human. I know. We passed a new law. Humans aren't humans anymore. You're a mouse. The level of contempt governments can have for people is shocking. Look what Nick Clegg claims David Cameron and George Osborne said to him. I don't understand why you keep going on about the need for more social housing. It just creates Labour voters. How fucking dare you treat people like that? It doesn't even make sense. If we give poor people stuff, they'll turn against us. No, they won't. They'll be delighted. They're not going to take the keys and go, oh, Jeremy Corbyn. The whole housing situation is a mess. Theresa May has promised to spend an extra £2 billion a year on houses. And you're like, good, because as it stands, the government only builds 1% of the new homes in Britain, which means private companies are providing homes for vulnerable families, and that's why we have poor doors. Do you know what a poor door is? Right, when a company builds a big, new, shiny block of flats, they have a grand entrance at the front for the rich people, and then around the back, they have a separate entrance for the affordable homes. It's shocking, isn't it? Rich people here, scum! Use the cat flap. That's not social housing. That's social segregation. And all we hear is, we can't build enough houses. There's no money. There's no money. Bullshit. Kensington and Chelsea Council had a budget surplus of £274 million. Over 60 people died in the fire at Grenfell, and hundreds more lost everything. Do you know how much it would have reportedly cost to have fire-resistant cladding? £5 grand. £5 grand. And not only did they have £274 million in the bank, but in 2015, they gave an opera group £5 million. People need sprinklers, not fucking Pavarotti. We have a housing crisis in this country. So if you're a Tory MP, a house is a fucking house. Actually, it's more than that. It's a home. It's a place to sleep and laugh and cry and love and sing and eat, and everyone needs one. And if there's money for the Queen or money in a council's bank account, then there's money to make sure something like Grenfell never, ever happens again. Let's talk about the homeless. I'm always amazed by some people's ability to find humour in despair. Last week, I offered a homeless guy in Bristol a coffee, and he genuinely went, "Mate, my life's shit enough. Last thing I need is something that keeps me up all night." And you're like, how can you be so funny when your life is so tough? And not only is it tough, it's getting worse. There's now over 300,000 homeless people in the UK. That's 1 in every 200. In England's worst hit areas, 1 in every 25 people are homeless. 1 in 25. It makes you feel bad for all the tiny things you bitch about, doesn't it? I was in Sainsbury's the other day and I genuinely went, fucking brilliant, they've run out of avocado. Does it get more first world than that? They're sleeping on concrete and I'm like, but I wanted guacamole! And if you think the number of homeless people is shocking, it's even worse for the ones on the streets. Look how councils are dealing with them. Some of them are fining people 100 quid for the crime of sleeping rough. They're homeless and now they're not allowed to sleep on the streets. What do they want them to do? Fucking levitate? And if they had 100 quid, they probably wouldn't be sleeping rough. How are you supposed to pay? Chip and pin? And they aren't just threatening to fine. Some councils are buying homeless people one-way train tickets out of their areas. That doesn't solve the problem. You're just moving it. You don't see doctors putting sick people in hot air balloons. It's fucked, man. And it gets worse. This will blow your mind. Look what Bournemouth Council did. They played Alvin and the Chipmunks to drive homeless people out of the bus station. That is horrific. You've got no home. You're trying to sleep. And they're playing this. Fuck off! People are struggling. They need help, not songs. We wouldn't do that, would we? You wouldn't go up to someone with diabetes and go, I don't think you're ready for this jelly. I've been run over. The wheels on the bus go round and round. I've got chlamydia. Goodness gracious, quick balls of fire. We wouldn't do that. And to be honest, it's not just councils. We're just as bad. More than half of us admit to doing nothing when we see someone homeless. I was in the pub with my mate the other day. He went, don't give them money. You're just feeding their addiction. You're like, Paul, you've been on the fruit machine for 4 hours. They'll spend it on drugs. What do you want them to spend it on? Broccoli? They'll waste the money. We all waste money. Fuck me. I've got 3 spiralisers. I once bought a Kendrick Lamar T-shirt online from China. Turns out small in Beijing is really fucking small. We need to rethink how we approach homelessness in this country. Why do we care about reality stars and not give a shit about people on the streets? In fact, instead of Celebrity Big Brother, I've got an idea. Instead of voting pointless celebs out, why don't we put the homeless in? Or we could put pressure on councils to do what they did in Vancouver. They had covers, so if you can't get into the shelter, at least you don't get rained on. I'm not saying we should copy everything in Canada. They call pint glasses growlers. That's just asking for trouble. But I had 5 growlers last night. Fucking hell. But don't get me wrong. There are things you can do. If you've got some spare food, you can take it to a community fridge. Or if you see someone sleeping rough, you can call StreetLink and they'll help them find a bed for the night. But above all, they deserve to be treated with compassion, not fined 100 quid, not given one-way tickets out of cities, not tortured by music. They need help, not derision. Don't dismiss them as tramps or beggars or junkies. They're people with hearts and souls. And never was this more beautifully illustrated than this story. Look at this. It's wonderful. This is Adan Ababaker. He slept rough on the streets of London for over 12 years after his divorce left him homeless and suffering with depression.
This was my home for many years. It's where I slept, it's where I begged. I used to lay down a couple of pieces of cardboard and climb into a sleeping bag and try to get a few hours sleep if possible. I've been urinated on, I've had bottles thrown at me, I've had someone trying to set fire to me, I've had alcohol poured over me. That's quite a regular occurrence, though, for homeless people.
Despite the fact society had turned his back on him, he never turned his back on society. When a woman leapt into the Thames, Adan leapt into action.
It was late at night, it was about 10:30. It was very, very cold that year. We had a very nasty winter. I was taking a walk and I heard someone screaming, a lady screaming, and I thought it was someone getting mugged or raped or something. So I ran down and realised that she was pointing to a girl on the bridge who was just jumped off the bridge. So I ran back, stripped off, jumped off the bridge, swam towards the young lady who was in serious trouble. In that weather, in this water, at that time of year, with that current, she wouldn't have lasted very long. It was difficult, and there was a time that I was worried that I wouldn't make it because my muscles were so tense from the cold, and I was getting very, very tired. I just knew once I got to her, she'd be safe. I spent 3 days in hospital with hypothermia, but I heard she's doing very well. The first medal I got was the Bronze Medal of Bravery, and the second medal I got was the Queen's Gallantry Medal, who I received from Prince Charles. Then I met Jamal, and incredibly, he's got an organisation that helps homeless people get back into work. Do you want some milk in there, or do you want it black?
It's mind-boggling to think that people are walking past somebody who's literally a real-life hero, and we just don't know he exists. We don't know who he is. We don't know what his background is, and that's purely because as soon as he sits on the street, he falls into that box of being homeless.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Every day's getting a little better, so things have changed dramatically for me.
What a hero. Now, next up, it's time... I love these kids, man. It's time for another edition of Playground Politics. This week, me and the children of the world discussed money. Do you know what tax is?
When you have to rent a car.
Yep. If you had $1 billion, what would you do with it?
I'll save it.
Save it? What about if I were to offer you a fully trained monkey butler? Would you like a cup of tea? You want me to hoover up your bedroom?
No.
No. What would you spend on?
Servants.
Servants. Nice. Would you give these servants, like, nice clothes and nice outfits?
No.
OK. And what would you get the servants to do for you?
Like, go to the bank and steal money for me.
Nice.
And also massage me.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd have a butler.
What would you call that butler?
Bertram.
Butt rub. You call him butt rub?
No, Bertram.
£82 million. What would you do if you had that money?
I would be rich.
That's right.
I'll buy a house made out of jelly.
You'd make a jelly house.
No.
I mean,
I wouldn't make it, I'll get a jelly house.
you're going to make it anyway.
No.
I don't understand what you're saying,
I'm gonna
Keith.
get one.
You're going to get one?
Yeah, buy one, not make one.
Listen, I'm no expert in this area, but I don't see jelly houses left, right and centre.
No, you don't have to build it. You could get people to build it. You could pay the people to build it, and then they build it, instead of you having to build it.
You're a tyrant. Do you know what tax is?
Tax credit. A taxi. A tax credit.
So, if you were working on YouTube and you got paid £100, you'd pay £20 of that to the government, and then that would help all the things in the country run.
Ooh.
How much money do you think a footballer gets paid?
£50,000.
£50, what, a week?
A trillion.
How much do you think a fireman gets paid?
Because they're saving people's life, I bet they get paid a lot.
You think a tenner?
Yeah. A 20.
You think £20?
Yeah.
Because they're saving lives, they need the big bucks.
But you think footballers should be paid more?
Yeah.
Do you?
They cut themselves when they play football.
That is true.
Yeah, but it isn't like a massive cut. It isn't like their leg gets chopped off.
They're more important. So if a fire went out, a footballer could put it out.
Football people, they just like run around and have fun. Whereas if you're a firefighter, it's serious because you risk your lives for someone else's life.
Yeah, but they have special gear.
Either way, they're risking their life.
Yeah.
I really like you, Cooper.
Well, I hate you.
I think we could be friends.
No.